Hello, welcome to the show. I'm GG Kopilak, and my guests today are from Westchester ARC. They're headquartered in Hawthorne, and I really love this organization because they understand the value of art in enhancing people's lives. So let me first introduce the Executive Director, Rick Sweirat.
Thank you for having me, Gigi.
I'm glad you're here. And the Chair of the Art Committee for Gallery 265, which is the name of the building, 265.
Right.
Rob Miss, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
So tell us first all about the organization. What does Westchester ARC do?
Well, Westchester ARC started over 60 years ago by families of people with developmental disabilities who rejected the idea that their loved one belonged in an institution or away from them. They wanted their folks to grow up at home, in the community, and experience all the things that we as citizens in our community experience. So that's a real quick thumbnail sketch of the organization. What we do is we start with infancy and we work right through the senior years of a person's life, supporting these individuals and helping the families create opportunities for them to live, work, and recreate in the community. So it's everything from very typical clinical services and education to residences to job development and things like we're going to talk about today, creating opportunities for people to experience and to show off their talents and skills.
Right, and I was so impressed with your building because you have a real theme. First of all, it's 2 years you're in this building, right?
Right, just under 2 years actually.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful new building.
Yes.
And then when you walk into the lobby, you have this feeling of water.
Yes.
Yeah, so how did that happen that it was?
Well, that again goes back to our families and the people we serve, who we refer to as self-advocates, and our family and our community partners getting together and talking about what is the real meaning of our organization, what's the meaning of what we do on behalf of people's lives. And after having many discussions, interestingly enough, the water metaphor kept coming back and back and back. And I remarked to Rob once that my background in college was in philosophy, and it took me back to a lot of my philosophy classes. And people with disabilities started talking about the biblical relationship of water. They started talking about the relationship of water to supporting their lives. That part of water that is danger, that part that is risk. And so they kept coming back to the concept that water was awfully important in terms of expressing the feeling about what their lives look like and how they need to be supported. So from that, we turned to our architect and said, what can you do with this? And we met with our families, we met with our self-advocates, we took a look at how water could be represented in the building. And as a consequence, we have waterfalls, we have tile work that...
We have some images, so let's go a little bit slower. Because
Sure.
when you first walk in, you have a small waterfall.
Yes.
And then a kind of a feeling of a brook or something on the floor.
Yes, the tile work kind of looks like a wavy brook, and it kind of enters into the waterfall on the first floor, and then consequently an area that has plants that are kind of supported by
And then on the second floor where the gallery is, again, you have, this is a bigger waterfall.
Right.
Right, it's all glass. It's beautiful with the glass behind it.
Yeah, and interesting, as you enter into the building and you look up, there's a glass wall on that floor, so you see the waterfall from the top. Actually, the image is that the water's flowing down to the next floor. So it continues over those two floors.
Yeah, I think Rick has given you a thumbnail sketch here of a process that took a long time. I think it took a lot of courage on his part to let that kind of evolve while there was a lot of pressure to raise the funds to build the building and work with the architects. It was a very unusual process, and that's why I got very excited when he asked me to head up this committee to start an art gallery. Whoever thought of having an art gallery in a building for people who are developmentally disabled for those services? It was fantastic.
Yeah, really. People that are far-seeing and understand
Absolutely.
art, how it enhances lives. That's what I said. I think it's terrific. And then you have this beautiful quilt that was also designed by the self-advocates. Am I
That's
right
correct.
about that?
Yeah, that was part of the discussions that we had. And that quilt took about a year and a half, I think, to design. Every one of the squares had a team of individuals who sat and spoke about, to themselves, discussed what they felt they wanted to portray as part of that water imagery. And they created the design. The design was actually handed over to a quilt artist who then sewed the quilt, picked the materials, brought the quilt back in a almost finished, completed process, but showed it to the self-advocates again. and said, now this is what the square looks like, this is what the quilt is going to look like as I put it together. Do you have any last minute recommendations? And so they were part of that process of design right from beginning to end.
Okay.
Yeah, I sat in on that. I think that was the final
Yes.
session I sat in on. The quilt artist is actually a very well-trained person, nationally known, who works with folks to help them kind of express themselves. Dr. Beth Mount, who's actually on our committee. She's been fantastic on our committee.
Yeah. So it helps them by making quilts, or just, you know, talking with
the whole process
them? Oh, the whole process.
of
Yeah.
self-expression.
Right.
She came out of, I think she has a master's degree also in public administration
Something like
from
that.
Chapel
yeah,
Hill,
yeah,
UNC Chapel Hill.
And a doctorate, I believe, in organizational design.
Yeah.
But her way of trying to express how people express their lives is to use quilts.
Okay.
So, as a matter of fact, she's going to be doing a quilt exhibit in the city not too distant future, where she has quilts from all over the country, where she has worked with people with disabilities and asked them questions about some particular theme, and then conveyed it back as a quilt. It's kind of an exciting way of looking
Yeah,
at
it's
things,
fabulous.
as opposed to just writing down words on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
That is something that hits you right away.
Yeah, but I imagine the people that are working with her are very excited about it also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rob, how did you get involved in this? So you have an art background, or you?
It was a weak moment.
You said yes, and you thought it was going to be a little thing. And
I've worked with Rick off and on for about 10 years in different projects.
okay.
So, and we became friends. So when he asked me to do it, I really
But
thought it was a
guess,
great idea.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, so you knew right away when the building went up that there was going to be an art gallery in it, and you needed a chairperson to run it, or?
No, when we started designing the building, we really were very much of an open slate, so to speak. But as our folks started talking about the water metaphor, as they started talking about what the building should represent, as we talked to families, and families said, you know, this should be an exciting place that allows us to show off the values of the people that are our loved ones. Clearly, we needed to find a way of doing that. And of course, there's different ways. You could just have a photo art gallery. You could just do, design qualities that show off people's skills, or you can make it interactive. And it just became an evolution of the process.
Okay.
that this art gallery was going to be a very important feature. We happen to have conducted art shows in the past on behalf of our folks, but it was a once-a-year kind of situation.
Okay.
We usually did it at a local hotel, and this gave us an opportunity to have control and to be able to state that this was a place where we could house and show off art.
Well, first of all, the building lends itself to it.
Right.
It's a wonderful space, so
Right.
that's a natural. I think when I was asked to do this, we wanted to have a really serious committee, and we have some very good people on that committee, like Beth Mount, and we wanted to have high standards. So I think we're doing our 4th exhibit coming up and on May 16th for a number of ARCs. Like the Westchester ARC, but we jury these shows.
This committee that you have.
Yes.
But this is the 4th one. What was the first one that you?
Well, the first one was actually a year ago, May 7th, I think it was.
So what do they run for, 6 months, or?
About a quarter.
Oh,
Yeah, it's usually about 3 months.
Yeah,
Okay.
we try to do 4 a year. That was
Oh,
the
4 a year,
original
okay.
idea.
Okay.
But to jury this was gave it kind of kicked it up a notch, as Emma would say, and so we have, for instance, a woman who is part of Westchester Arts, or Arts Westchester. I can't remember. It's the Arts Council.
The
They
Arts
changed their
Council in
name.
White Plains, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
She is very experienced in hanging shows. Jessica Cefoletti. We have several people who have a background in museums, and so we have like a nucleus of our committee who are really very knowledgeable, and we go in and we spend an evening and jury these shows. And last year, what I thought was really inspiring, the people who won had their oils or whatever it was, the winning art pieces, done into a magazine,
Really?
along with poetry. It was published by Kids Express Publishing, And that was given out at Rick's annual meeting, and it was really inspiring.
Now, when you say you jury, you're not jurying for selection, you're jurying for awards. There's a difference, right?
Up to now, we've juried for awards because we have approximately 150 spots where we can actually put up pieces. I mean, obviously it becomes a matter of practicality. Up to now, when we've opened up a call for artists, we've gotten between 75 and 125, 130 pieces. This time we're expecting for the May 16th show to have much more, and we suspect that we're going to have to also jury for selection.
Okay.
We would like to get to that point because that validates, you know, the importance of what people are doing.
Right.
This is, I think the key to this, we're looking for artists who are disabled rather than disabled artists. You know, we're looking for high quality, but also being inclusive as much as possible. So you can come into an exhibit, there might be 150 pieces there, but the ones that we selected are demonstrated, you know, with some sort of a selection notice, and so, you know, it keeps both inclusiveness and keeps the standards pretty high.
And this is all ages we're talking about, because wasn't the last show a high school show?
Yes, it
or?
was.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And
Actually, this show, the one coming in on the 16th, for the first time, we're going to have preschoolers who are using cameras. They're doing photography on, as I understand it, I haven't seen these yet, but there are pictures about their feelings and how they demonstrate. And many of these children are from the spectrum of autism, so they have problems with conveying feelings and socializing. So this is an opportunity to use their therapeutic interventions as part of their art itself.
Yeah, I never know when Rick is going to spring a new idea on me. Okay? So last time we
didn't
met
know
up,
about that.
yeah, well, you know, your children certainly know, but I had to learn this. So, what the last time we met was, we're going to have films in this exhibit. And he discovered Sprout. And Sprout specializes in films that are made or acted in by persons with developmental disabilities. So our committee got to review some of their films, and we made a selection, and that's going to be part of this this exhibit when it opens on May 16th, along with the guy who started this, Anthony DeSalvo. So he's going to give a lecture or a talk. I think you can't call it a lecture. It's going to be pretty lively, and that's going to be part of it now. So it's a whole new dimension, and people should really.
so is there a
enjoy it.
specific time this is happening, and is it open to the public, or is it?
Sure.
Yeah, it'll be open to the public. It's going to be on May 16th, and I believe the film festival itself will be from 1 to 3.
Okay.
We're finalizing details. In addition to the Sprout Festival, we have a number of folks who have actually been studying at the Jacob Burns Theater, and they've been creating animations. And those will be part of the gallery itself. We're going to be putting those on loops. So that they can be shown as part of the entries.
So that will be there all the time.
That will be there
There'll
all
be
the
a
time,
TV or
right.
something, and that'll be running, and then you'll have the. So do you specify the media, or do you say any media at all is welcome?
Well, this particular show, we actually are calling it an all-media show.
Okay.
Just to
So you have sculptures, and you have paintings,
fabric as well.
fabric, quiltings, and
Yes.
anything you want. In the last show, I think there was fabulous found object sculpture that was the winner, I think, wasn't it?
Well, those high school kids did some phenomenal sculptures.
Yeah, they were great.
The one was the alligator that I loved, and they're there. You know, folks can arrange to go during the day and see some of that.
Right.
They can take the tour.
Yeah, and the building is just on Sawmill River Road,
Yes.
9A, it's like 265. One of the things that really impressed me when I was talking to you was your idea that if a student comes to you and says, I want to be an airplane pilot, the way you encourage them and say, you know, that your organization is not about maintaining, it's about encouraging and Yeah.
Well, we've taken our lessons really from ourselves. All of us have entered into our life in having dreams of all sorts. And at one point I thought I wanted to be an architect. I just couldn't pass the courses that had to do with architecture, but that didn't take away from the fact that I enjoyed still designing things. I eventually found something that was more aligned with where I felt that I could help people, and that is help people go in those directions. In the same way, we've often in special education limited people because we create plans, and we created plans around their limitations. We said, okay, so you're limited, you therefore can't do any more than thus, this, and that. We have found that people with dreams have an opportunity to go through that process and look at their limitations at the same time as they're looking at their dreams and finding where that may settle down. So if somebody says they want to be an airplane pilot, okay, we'll talk to you about that. We'll talk about what do you think you need to do in order to become a pilot. Let's take a look at whether you can do those things. But eventually you may find that working in an airport will be satisfying enough. And therefore, as you go through the process, as the individual goes through the process of sorting through what kind of training they need, what they're capable of handling, where they may find themselves really learning something that is related to that particular interest, they may find that they may want to be maybe a mechanic's helper, or a janitor, or maybe a ticket agent, or something else, but around airplanes. And that's just an example, but we've done that with art as well. We have found people that said they want to be artists. We have one gentleman who works in a frame shop, and he has learned to make frames. Now, he may not be able to sell his art, but he enjoys the framing process, and so he's around art. So there's a good example of how you can take dreams and start using them for the possibility of finding a satisfying life.
And your headquarters are really like a gathering place that people can come of all ages.
Yes.
And you have classes there also? You just...
Well, we refer to it as a gateway. The reason we call it a gateway is we feel that people need to have some place to come and dream and explore and create for themselves a life plan, so to speak, to then engage themselves in with the society. And so we have staff there that, first of all, assists the family and the individual and high schoolers when they come in with their teachers to think about dreaming about their lives and what they need. At the same time, we have art classes that are provided in the building if somebody wishes to sign up. We have self-advocacy meetings where people learn how to advocate on their own behalf. We also have some of the more typical, we have a wellness center, which is a clinic. We have people there who are job developers who will work with an individual and try to explore their interest in employment. So we have that going as well. But all of this is around dreaming. We start with that. As a matter of fact, we have a book that we hand out to our high schoolers that is called the Dreamcatcher book. And it's all about exploring what is in your mind about what your life ought to look like at maybe 10 years from now.
I think it's also a form of self-discovery. I was just thinking of the artist that was at Willowbrook, Britt. What's his first name?
Willie Britt.
Willie Britt. They have one of his paintings at the facility in Hawthorne. And out of Willowbrook, he was considered to be profoundly developmentally disabled, and he was drawing pictures, I guess the best way to say it is out of his body fluids. They discovered him. So when Willowbrook was disbanded, he eventually became a painter.
Wow.
And that was his self-discovery, and this goes back to the 50s.
Wow.
And I think we've come such a long way to go from self-discovery into dreaming and beginning to work through what a person feels they can do and discover that.
And his paintings are pretty famous now, aren't they?
Yes, we had to buy this painting.
Yeah.
And we paid a lot of money to put this painting up, but it was well worth it. If you recall, the painting also has a poem that sits side by side with, done by Maya Angelou, who had seen this painting and met William and then wrote the poem side by side with this painting. And the thing that's important about that is, how did he touch other people? He touched Maya Angelou, who, on her own, is probably a brilliant person, capable of stepping forward and do whatever she wants, but Will had to be supported in doing this. But he rose to the same level, in a sense, of Maya's ability to be able to convey a message, which is a profound way of looking at people, that you don't look at them in terms of their limitations. You don't look at them with the things that they don't have. What we do is we take a look at what you do have.
Right.
What can you share? What can you do? What can you provide to the rest of the world around you, to show that you are part of your culture and your society?
Right, encouragement, and to have, to what, yeah.
Just
So-
a different way
Yeah.
of communicating. I mean, that's
Right.
how I see it.
And
Right.
art is amazing. It is an
Yeah.
amazing way to communicate.
I sincerely believe that. Because you know it's the first thing
Yes.
to be cut from any kind of school budget.
right.
And yet you teach through art. You can teach history through. I didn't learn about history until I learned art history, because I couldn't stand the years and memorize this year and memorize this date. And so once I understood art history, I could understand history. So I think it's amazing. I think it's wonderful that you understand all of this. And so when does all of this stuff, all these art come to you and you have to make it, do they actually bring the work to you?
Oh, yeah.
All of the
Yes.
work has to be brought to you?
Yeah, it's
Must be
Rick's
a
staff
huge
is tremendous in
Okay.
doing the kind of the back room
Right.
operation of this, because
Right.
it has to be framed. If it wasn't framed, everything has to be organized. So as a committee, we're kind of spoiled, because we'll go in and do the jury part, for instance, and it's all laid out for us. And we spend several hours looking at everything, but it's all prepared. So
So they bring it in, and if it needs to be framed, your staff, you have something like 700 employees?
We have, yes.
Yeah. So.
But and the interesting thing is, Gigi, is that many of these employees that I have are artists, but it's the quote, during the day, they had a job. And we have discovered that we have staff who were doing other things in support of people's lives, who could also teach art. So we found a fabric artist, we found a photographer, we found a painter, we found people who are teaching poetry. And they have typical jobs in our organization, such as residence counselors, or job coaches, or a social worker, but they're imparting their avocation, their life now, to the people that they are working with. And so it's created a richness, even in the conversation during the day, where, as you know, with art, you start opening up a conversation with a person.
Right.
Right. and trying to explain what you were thinking of, and that has been helpful for us.
And artists are the most interesting people anyway.
it's kind of a wide open kind of a look at art.
Yeah.
For instance, on our committee, we have Zork. Zork is a nationally known slam poet,
Oh, okay.
and you should get him on sometime. He's a very
Yeah.
colorful guy.
Yeah.
And he brings in a whole different dimension. So we're looking at performance art as well. We haven't gotten that far into the performance art part of it, but
Well,
yet,
the
but
film,
we
will the film this you're showing have some performance art in it, you
Yes.
think? They will.
Oh,
You haven't seen the
absolutely.
films yet, though, have you? Or-
Not all of them. We've
Yeah.
We reviewed about 3 or 4 of them.
and
From Sprout or from?
Yes.
Oh,
Sprout.
okay, from Sprout.
Yeah.
and we've seen 1 or 2 of the animations that have been produced on behalf from Jacob Burns, but
Jacob
we don't have. There's still some in the process right now, so they'll be somewhat of a surprise to us.
It's a long process making a film. I'm telling you, I did a 30-second commercial. I worked on it for weeks.
Yes.
You know, it's hard. So
really is.
I really appreciate these people who, that you're acknowledging this and showing this work, I think. And you're going to jury that also, or is that going to be? you think-
No.
No, that's just going to be looped.
Not the Sprout films.
No, not the Sprout films, but the animation.
It's hard. We're not going to have enough to be able to go
Okay.
through a jurying process. I think at this point, we use every show as an opportunity to show off another piece of potential art endeavor to then encourage others to jump into it. A couple of shows ago, we got involved with jewelry, and and so jewelry art became part of the show. And maybe eventually, we didn't really do much with the jewelry in terms of jurying, if I remember correctly, but eventually we'll get into something like that if we can get enough folks to really engage in that
Right.
particular.
All I know is a lot of women were dying to buy it.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's beautiful stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Was it beaded work or just?
A variety of
Yeah.
types of jewelry.
Yeah.
Bracelets and necklaces and so forth.
Yeah. But,
Earrings.
okay. And then you can use jewelry as art. There's wearing art.
That's right.
I know someone that made a book, put a hole in a book, and that was a bracelet. That was pretty good. So do you have plans for any more shows that are coming up, or do you wait until the show is over to make a plan, or do you do far-ranging?
It's kind of loose, but our objective is to have for a year, 2 generated through Westchester ARC, and then to bring in 2 shows. And so we talked to other entities. For instance, HeartShare Human Services in Brooklyn has a similar kinds of programs. They did a show down in Chelsea, and they'll probably do more, and we could import their work, for instance, and have it there for a couple of months. So we're working, it's kind of a loose arrangement.
Okay.
So we're developing. We've only been going for a year, so I'm
So you don't look far ahead to the whole year and make a plan, and you just sort of...
We try to do that, but it still has a wonderful serendipity about it.
Okay.
Well, you should
There's an
know,
art to it.
You should know that a committee of artists is hard to manage.
There's a saying in the South about trying to get snakes into a bag. How do you put snakes into a bag?
Is that the saying?
Or get cats going all the same direction?
No.
It's like trying to work with artists.
No. But then look at how creatively it comes out in the end. It's
That's
terrific.
true. It's
Yeah.
absolutely true.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this. We just have a few minutes left. What else would you like to include and say, and anything specific, or May 16th? Or?
Well, as we were talking about showing value in a person's life, one of the other elements of our organization that we firmly believe in and our board of directors strongly supports is the area of self-advocacy. And it's kind of an extension even of the art and the message that we give, and that is people, to be valued, you need to also be able to stand up for yourself. You need to be able to express what your needs are. You can be supported and still be an advocate. All of us are supported. I mean, there's things that we cannot do in our lives that we require other people to help us with, but we know how to ask for those things. So one of the important features of our organization, which just comes out somewhat in our art program, is the fact that people are expressing their desires, their futures, they're asking for support, and they're also participants in these decisions. We do have 2 self-advocates on our board of directors. They are partners with everyone else on that board, and they fully participate. We have self-advocates that are planning and getting involved with some of the art events now, and they're talking about how they can give better guidance to this kind of thing. I've taken self-advocates with me to Albany to meet with our legislative people, because who's better to speak on behalf of why they should be supported than the person who's receiving the support?
Absolutely.
So, you know, I wanted to make it clear that this is an evolving picture, so to speak. You know, we're discovering some very exciting things about people with developmental disabilities by opening up our eyes to the fact that we are not here to limit, and we're not here to give guidance. We're here to give support. And by doing that, we are surprised every day by what we find.
That's great. Very interesting.
And I think that's why, as a committee, we're kind of loosely arranged to let this evolve in a way that Rick is describing this.
Yeah, no parameters, just go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have the space and we have the time.
It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's terrific. And I
it'll
encourage
evolve.
people to come to see it.
Yeah.
May 16th.
May 16th, if you
Is
check
it
our
open?
website, www.westchesterarc.org, and there's a button, I believe, on the right side of the website that says Gallery 265. It will show the opening. It also will show some of the past art.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of an archive in there that you can take a look at.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Rick.
Oh, Gigi,
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
It's been so interesting. Thank you for coming, and thank you for watching.